Welcome to the Weird Warriors podcast. I am Max.
Hey, I'm Rich.
Hey, and on this podcast, we normally focus on the Weird War Tales comic book series published by DC Comics from 1971 to 1983. However, on this episode, we're going on a redeployment, our final redeployment as it stands so far. And we're taking a look at the Weird War Tales one shot from 2010, people. But first, Rich has a little something to say.
Intel report. Gonna apologize for this one right off the bat, but this is the name of the story. Cat Shit 1, aka Apocalypse Meow. A 3-volume manga collection published by Antarctic Press in 2021, created by Motofumi Kobayashi. The first 2 volumes follow 3 American soldiers who are anthropomorphic animals, easy for me to say, in the Vietnam War named Potaski, Packy, and Rats. All 3 are in a recon team called Cat Shit 1. Each mission shows the daily activities of the reconnaissance group in Vietnam. Volume 3 covers all the brushfire dust-ups in the 80s and 90s, Panama, Desert Storm, Grenada, Afghanistan, etc. And each animal in the series reflects in sometimes unfortunate ways certain stereotypes. Americans are rabbits, Vietnamese are Siamese cats, French are pigs, Japanese are gorillas, Chinese are pandas, Russians are bears, etc. The art and storytelling in these are very well done. Title detail. The first 5 redeployments were to a 4-part mini in 1997 and a giant-sized one-shot in 2000, all under the DC Vertigo banner. This one is not. It is a standard-sized 3-story anthology comic that we don't have to give a salty language for, except for the Intel report. Cover detail. Art by Darwin Cook, $3.99. The new redeployment logo Max hates is gone, replaced by the classic Weird War Tales logo in the last redeployment issue. Maybe that was a Vertigo thing too. Weird War Tales is red on yellow on a black background. Under a blood-red cloudy sky, skeletal soldiers from multiple nations and eras stand on a red poppy-strewn hillside. In the foreground, a bullet-riddled GI with a slung Thompson looks back at the viewer. All the other soldiers are holding their weapons, facing to the right and gazing at the ground, as far as the eye can see into the distance. There's a World War II German, a World War I doughboy, a Continental soldier, a knight, a Viking, and a Legionnaire in the GI's immediate vicinity. Cover date, November 2010. Nice touch for the Armistice Day vibe here. Date of release, September 9th, 2010. Old Comics Man. Seen on eBay for anywhere between $10 and $22. No Killjoy. Moving on to the CNC. I thought that the flowers the soldiers were standing on were poppies, a thought quickly confirmed in the next story. The classic logo just pops off the page. This was at the height of Darwin Cook's powers, so it's just incredible they got him to do the cover and lead story. A very dark and moody cover with all the reds and blacks. You would hope any long-suffering war and or horror comic nerd would scoop this one up as soon as they saw it. I did. All the dead seem to be paying their respects to the fallen, which would include themselves. As the living, is the dead GI resenting our intrusion, or is he blaming us for continuing to fail to learn the lessons of the futility of war? Oh, this is solid.
Yeah, you went deep on that, man, with the, what is the skeleton accusing us of? I just I have to go, as you alluded to, I just went for the big adrenaline shot at first of classic logo for the win. I was so happy to see the return of the indisputably superior logo to the cover of something bearing this series title. And oh yeah, I mean, Darwin Cook is cooking on this cover, as he was wont to do. But like you said, this is when he had really reached a peak of his already really cool powers at this time. The coloring deserves its props too. Whether that was done by Cook or, as I suspect, Dave Stewart, who did the work on this story's interior pages, the The blood red smoky background sets the perfect tone for the host of skeletal hosts outstanding in their field of poppies, which I totally missed. But hey, I'm not the military symbolism guy on this podcast. The effect of the one skeleton turning to face us, it struck me. It's nice and creepy too. It does give that look of like, oh, that one sees us. Uh-oh. You don't feel welcome, as all I'll say. But it's too late to turn around now, folks. You're in the weird war now. I should mention here that I ended up skipping a convention that Cook was going to be at a while back, thinking I'd catch him at the next one. And I did buy a ticket to the next one, so it looked like I was on track to stand in line for a sketch of the spirit or Jonah Hex from the man himself. However, on the weekend just before that con, I think it was going to be in Boston, the news broke of Darwin Cook's passing. So never pass up that chance. Never say, I'll catch him on the next one, no matter how young the person is. Because I'm like, Darwin Cook's barely older than me. He's going to be around for a while. He was not. So my omnibus of his New Frontier series for DC has been read through several times, and his work on, as I kind of mentioned before, DC's The Spirit is some of the best work ever done with that character, in my opinion. It's a great cover for this issue and a huge loss for comics. There's no disputing it. That cover is fantastic. One of the best, I think, that's been on the series, even from the original to the redeployments.
First up, Armistice Night, 7 pages, created by Darwin Cook. The corpse of a World War II U.S. serviceman sits in an endless field of poppies. He leans against a tree and holds a flower in his hands. In Flanders fields the poppies grow, guarding the crosses row on row. Memorial Day and events like it the world over mark a time when we pause to honor those that were called upon to fight and die on the field of battle. But what of those that lived to fight? The bloodthirsty men that carved a place in history with their passion for conquest. Modern wars leave no room for the glorification of war or those that wage it. However, once a year, when the poppies bloom, these indomitable souls congregate to revel in their love of combat and destruction. Tarnation, Hannibal! The uniformed corpse of Robert E. Lee exclaims as he walks through a solid field of poppies towards the Carthaginian leader that's astride an elephant. The uniformed corpse of Hannibal dismounts. General Lee, my friend, so good to see you again. I suppose I got a bit lost. My eyes aren't what they used to be. You didn't happen to bring any of that magic elixir of yours, did you, Robert? Lee reaches into his jacket, pulls out a glass flask, and hands it over. Fort Improved Kentucky bourbon. You keep that for yourself. Thank you, Robert. You're truly king of kings. Lee throws his arm over Hannibal's shoulder. Don't you blaspheme, you heathen. Come on now. It sounds like the others are getting started over yonder hill. On the other side of the poppy-coated hill, the uniformed corpse of George Patton stands on a rock surrounded by 3 flaming torches and addresses a crowd of uniformed warrior corpses from every era in history. It's an honor to be hosting our annual meeting. As your Grand Marshal, I'd like to start by welcoming some new faces. Shalom, marhaba, howdy. We only have one rule. There's no politics or old grievances. We're here to have fun. If you don't observe this rule, you're out. Just ask Hitler. He'd tell you. But he's out. Now, before we get carried away, I'd like to salute you all. We are society's cast-offs, the ones they called upon to fight their battles for them. But one century's hero is the next century's mass murderer. Just ask all those crusading knights in the back. So it falls to us to keep our ways and customs alive. If war was a woman, I'd throw her down to make sweet love to her, and I know that you unrepentant bastards would do the same. Sir, yes, sir! Louder, maggots! Sir, yes, sir! Let the Goldang Games begin! Patton fires a pistol into the air, and caps and helmets fly into the air in celebration. A World War I Jerry and Tommy share a drink. A Hun lifts a log with a dozen warriors standing on it. The bodies of Winston Churchill and Erwin Rommel use the other one's head for pistol target practice on a tree stump. Churchill misses, but Rommel is a sport and lets him try again. Rommel laughs when Churchill hits himself, knocking his head over. Lee and Hannibal are drinking and engage "You the man!" exultations. Genghis Khan places an apple on his head and offers the target to Joan of Arc. Joan's arrow misses the apple and goes into his right eye socket instead. "You missed!" he exclaims, then bursts out laughing so hard his head falls off his shoulders. The assembled warriors roar with glee as Khan's headless body staggers around looking for his head, and laugh harder when the body crushes Khan's skull when stepped on. The laughter ends when Patton roars, "Ted Hunt! Gather round, maggots! It's time for the evening's main event! A battle to the death to determine next year's Grand Marshal! Good luck, and may the toughest son of a bitch win!" A full-blown melee immediately erupts. Guns, swords, axes, spears, every weapon is used to its fullest potential as the undead blood soaks the surrounding poppies, and cries of multiple languages fill the air. In the end, a World War I poilu stands atop the pile of bodies in celebration. "I win! Vive la France!" Patton doesn't buy it. "A Frenchman? Impossible. I smell something funny here." "It's sauerkraut. You're no Frenchman." The Frenchman laughs as he drops the uniform. "Pata du Dummkopf!" "Hitler!" Patton explodes in recognition. "That's right, baby. And these aren't baracas." Hitler holds 4 potato mashers in his hands, and when they explode, the mound of bodies at his feet are blown apart. Burning skulls and poppies rain through the air. From inside a new mound of skulls, Churchill mutters, "Not exactly our finest hour," and Patton tells him to shut his pie hole. The end. Killjoy was here, historyman. Pull up a chair. As most of us know, Armistice Day, later known as Remembrance Day, the Commonwealth and Veterans Day in the United States, is commemorated every year on 11 November to mark the armistice signed between the Allies of World War I and Germany at Compiègne, France, at 5:45 a.m. for the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front of World War I, which took effect at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. Though, according to Thomas R. Rowanlock, an intelligence officer with the U.S. 1st Division, shelling from both sides continued for the rest of the day, ending only at nightfall. The armistice initially expired after a period of 36 days and had to be extended several times. A formal peace agreement was reached only when the Treaty of Versailles was signed the following year, the draconian terms of which all but ensured future problems. The date is a national holiday in France. It was declared a national holiday in many allies of World War I nations, several of whom have since changed the name of the holiday from Armistice Day to either Remembrance Day in the Commonwealth of Nations or Veterans Day in the United States. Commemorations of November 11th were initially focused on honoring the military dead of the First World War and the return to peace. Just prior to or after World War II, many countries changed the name of the holiday. Several changed the focus to include all veterans for their armed services, and a few honor their war dead, both uniformed and civilian. The United States focuses the commemoration of their war dead on Memorial Day, celebrated in the last weekend of May. On May 5th, 1868, Union General John A. Logan issued a proclamation calling for Decoration Day to be observed annually and nationwide. He was commander-in-chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of and for Union Civil War veterans, founded in Decatur, Illinois. With this proclamation, Logan adopted the Memorial Day practice that had begun in the southern states 2 years earlier. The northern states quickly adopted the holiday. In 1868, memorial events were held in 183 cemeteries in 27 states, 336 in 1869. One author claims the date was chosen because it was not the anniversary of any particular battle. Logan's wife noted the date was chosen because it was the optimal date for flowers to be in bloom in the north. In April 1865, following Lincoln's assassination, commemorations were extensive. The more than 600,000 soldiers of both sides who fought and died in the Civil War meant burial and memorialization took on new cultural significance. Under the leadership of women during the war, an increasingly formal practice of decorating graves had taken shape. In 1865, the federal government also began creating the United States National Cemetery System for the Union war dead. By the 20th century, various Union memorial traditions celebrated on different days merged. The Memorial Day eventually extended to honor all Americans who fought and died while in the U.S. military service. The name Memorial Day, which was first attested in 1882, gradually became more common than Decoration Day after World War II, but was not declared the official name by federal law until 1967. On June 28, 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which moved 4 holidays, including Memorial Day, from their traditional dates to a specified Monday in order to create a convenient 3-day weekend. The change moved Memorial Day from its traditional May 30th date to the last Monday in May. The law took effect at the federal level in 1971. There's a museum in Waterloo, New York that marks the official birthplace of the holiday. I haven't visited it yet, but it's on my list and it's pretty close to the highway for my annual junkets to visit the in-laws and all. In 1915, following the Second Battle of Ypres, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a physician with the Canadian Expeditionary Force, wrote the poem In Flanders Fields. Its opening lines, read in the script, refer to the fields of poppies that grew among the soldiers' graves in Flanders. Inspired by the poem, YWCA worker Moina Michael attended a YWCA Overseas War Secretaries Conference 3 years later wearing a silk poppy pinned to her coat and distributed over 24 more to others present. The National American Legion adopted in 1920 the poppy as its official symbol of remembrance. Similar efforts took place in Commonwealth nations. A side note about poppies, the red flower with the black center can often look like a wound itself. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, a lot of people mix up Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Do not wish a veteran a happy Memorial Day. Please.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's one of these undead guys from the story, because like, who knows? If you're talking to one of them, they qualify for both. I don't know. Anyway, comments and commendations on this awesome opening story. I'll kick it off and say the whimsical tone of this story set its hook in me right away and it never let go. It was so much freaking fun. On page 1, I simply adore the lounging silhouette of the soldier in panel 2. Just great body language. And again, the tone just reverberates throughout every piece of this story. Just, I love the "my eyes aren't what they used to be" line from panel 3. It made me laugh more than it should have. Easy joke, but again, you're just in that rhythm. It keeps hitting you with the tone and the dialogue, the drawings, everything. And then we get to the splash page. It's stunning, it's funny, it's monochromatic coloring done right, and it also drives home the theme of the series with the variety of headwear or headgear that's on display in the foreground. Plus, floating cigar. Love it. I love the little floating cigar that's hovering somehow near Patton's skeletal mouth. Just a perfect touch. Again, the tone reinforced in every panel here. Also, Hitler's out, eh? Is that foreshadowing I smell? You've already heard the synopsis. You know it was. But even reading it is for the first time, because spoiler alert, people, I never read this back when it first came out. I read this for the show, and that's it. So this was brand new to me. So again, the thesis for this story is spelled out nicely on page 3, panels 1 to 2. And again, the floating cigar working overtime in panel 3 to my absolute delight doesn't hurt. The sharpshooting contest on page 4 that you heard about in the synopsis, panels 3 through 5, was as ingenious as it was funny. Actual laugh out loud moment for me when I first read it. I, I could almost see this animated as I was reading it. It was just so fluid and so funny, especially that sequence. Just I want to see DC do an animated short of this story. Just do it. Put it on a streaming service or a DVD. Come on. All right. And you know, little Joan of Arc, she looks like a kid. She just looks too cute. Panel 7 there is just too precious. And again, you heard the results of her trying to shoot the apple. Again, another funny moment. The blood drenching of the poppies in panels 4 through 6 on page 6 was a nice touch because you get the red flowers, but they get redder and they get very hard to pull off when you're working with a limited color palette, but pulled off perfectly here. And it kind of feels wrong to say, but Hitler's literal party crashing on page 7 is hilarious. Like Hitler giving me a chuckle. It's not supposed to happen, but it did. I gotta tell you, it was funny as hell. Also, the arrangement of the skulls in panel 6 is really cool. Very stylish, very cool. Again, Cook and Stewart just working together incredibly on this one. And of course, we get the return of the Make War No More button in the final panel. This was one hell of an opener.
I'm calling it now. There's no freaking way this doesn't win the book. This was a complete delight. If you're not getting a Night on Bald Mountain vibe off of this one, you obviously haven't seen Fantasia. We start with Death in a World War II GI uniform, leaning under a tree, holding a poppy, reciting In Flanders Fields. The page 2 splash from the title, black dead trees in the background, forming a perfect contrast to the red sky and poppy-covered hills, and the cigar-chomping, swagger-stick-carrying Patton addressing the troops. Page 3, panel 4, the GI in the foreground has a knife sticking out of his chest. Page 4, panel 1 of the Tommy and Jerry sharing a drink gives me a Christmas truce callback. And as Max said, the 3-panel exchange between Rommel and Churchill is great. Page 5, panel 7 of Kahn's head calling his own body an idiot. The aha scene with Hitler on page 7, panel 4, complete with bullet hole in his temple. Wonderful. And the last 3 panels of burning skulls and poppies ending with the long-lost classic Make War No More button from the DC War books. Mic dropped. I think Darwin Cook did the lettering too. And each speaker had a different text style that often matches their heritage. The only name in this entire book I recognized immediately was Cook, and I got him to sign my copy of DC, The New Frontier, #1, at some con or another. That book starts with a story of the losers landing on Dinosaur Island. Yeah, of course I picked that up. Another story has Hal Jordan being a fighter jock in the Korean War. I was as shocked as everyone else when he died in 2016 at the age of 53 from an aggressive form of cancer. I'm 55, so yeah. This is easily the lightest story of all the redeployment books and probably would be high on the list for the original series as well. Awesome, awesome, awesome start to the end of the road.
I gotta say, man, like good catch on the lettering. That's normally something that would be in my wheelhouse, and I'm like flipping back through the book right now, and like you're absolutely right, and I'm kind of ashamed I missed that. Again, with all my focus on craft, that is an awesome touch. And I also missed a bullet hole in Hitler's temple. That's great.
Saw
So
your
great.
reaction to that on the camera. You're like, you had that look like, how the hell did I miss that?
I'm like, oh, back to holy crap, he's right. That's got me to damn. So yeah, freaking great. I'll mute back up.
Yeah, we're going to do the something we don't usually do. We're just going to split this book right down the middle. I'm going to do 2. Dan Max is going to do 2, which means I'm going to keep talking. We have something else we have not seen in the redeployment books. We would ordinarily call it an introduction page, but here I think it's a bridge piece. Art by Steve Pugh, I think is how you pronounce that. Skeletal Death wears a U.S. World War II helmet with web gear and binoculars around his neck. The viewer appears to be looking up at Death from inside a freshly dug up wooden coffin, who is gesturing at him with a bony finger to get up. Behind Death is a cemetery, and one of the graves is empty. A tall, barren tree stands behind the cemetery with black crows sitting in its branches or flying before the full moon behind it. Death says,
Advance and be recognized. We restless spirits bring you more weird war tales. Join us and see what lies beyond.
Killjoy! The web gear doesn't look quite right for World War II vintage, and the exposed ribs look more like steel bands than ribs. CNC. Our first ever redeployment issue intro page comes in the issue that the old logo returns. Max's birthday was last month. Although I had a killjoy for this page, overall it is still an outstanding piece of work. Like I said, it's less an intro page than a bridge piece. It's black and white and it appears to be done in inks or maybe charcoal, which really sets the mood. The tree, crows, moon background is so well done. And it took me a minute to put the pieces together that Death had dug you up and you're looking up at him from inside a coffin. There's even a shovel next to the open grave. But you know what love about this the best? The cemetery is a British Commonwealth War Graves Commission site. All the markers, save one, are identical for what would be in one of their cemeteries. Now, American military cemeteries are beautiful, but the CWGC takes it to the next level. I've mentioned in the past that large percentages of American war dead through World War II were brought home. British Commonwealth nations didn't do that, except for the single bodies brought home by each nation for interment as their national unknown soldier. All Commonwealth casualties were buried in the nation where they died. And the cemeteries are so beautiful. Flowering plants decorate the rows of markers. The markers themselves have unit crests of the casualty engraved in the name, rank, date, and age of death, and a touching epitaph at the bottom selected by a family member. I visited several British war cemeteries in France and Belgium in 2019, and the experience has stuck with me. I've included a photo in the album from Bayeux of Royal Marine E.W. Dern, who was 17 years old when killed in action on June 6, 1944, D-Day. The epitaph reads, "Into the mosaic of victory, our most precious piece was laid." How can you read something like that and not have a moment? I found individual markers at local cemeteries for those that died in accidents or illness during the two wars and have joined the CWGC to support their endeavors. But back to the page. So the dead GI dug up a dead Tommy? Nice. I know not one person in 100 that saw this page would probably make that connection. So, of course, I had to look up Steve Pug's nationality. No surprise at all. He's British. Well done, sir. This was worth waiting for. A further nitpick, though, the British are every bit the sticklers the Americans are when it comes to maintaining the markers in a military cemetery. That broken one on the lower right would be replaced. Yes, I know. Shut up. It helps sell the scene. I griped about military marker messiness on the cover of Weird War Tales 11 too. Check the album. Hi, have we met? But again, aces overall. 3 for 3 so far. This is a perfect carryover for the first story.
Hey, maybe the host there, the skeletal GI just broke that marker. You don't know. You don't know when that happened. So for my CNC, I'll keep it short here because Rich covered a lot, again, of detail about the art and the construction of this page here. But I have a gripe. First off, I have a grievance. What a surprise. Why is this here and not, in the very beginning of the comic book? I mean, I'm not unhappy to see you, intro page, but you kind of missed your cue. Changing your name to Bridge Piece ain't fooling anybody. And besides, you didn't even include a bridge in the background. Ever heard of the River Kwai? Anyone? Hello? No, I don't buy it. I don't like it. I know you didn't want to put something before the Darwin Cook story. I get it, how good that was, but it's an intro piece. I never heard the word bridge piece until I read this comic book. I call shenanigans. All right. The art on display here is amazing, though. I've had pretty limited exposure to, and I say his name, Steve Pugh, like Hugh, but I just do that. I always have since I've saw it in print. And I did know he was British. I know a little more about the comics side of reality than the important military history side of reality. You may have picked up on, folks, but I've had some exposure to Steve Pugh's work, and everything I've ever seen by the guy has been really cool. So I guess I'll allow it. And since I'm feeling gracious, I'll take us into the story that follows our bridge piece, and take it from here. This one is called The Hell Above Us. It's 7 pages long. Script is by Ivan Brandon and art by Nick Klein. And, 2 names I'm not very familiar with. As Rich intimated, some of these names weren't really jumping out at us. But the synopsis for this little tale goes something like this. German aircraft swoop over the blazing guns of an American fleet at harbor. In a distant cove, an American sub watches the battle unseen. From in here, hell is quiet. In the submarine, the sounds aren't real. The chief approaches the captain. Sir, we desperately need to refuel. You keep saying that, Chief. I ask you again, where? Look at that mess. We need to hold out, son. Right here, at a distance. We can't engage. We need to let these candles blow out. The first one nearly cracks the ship in half, but it holds. The second flies over our head. Bring it down! Take the boat down, the captain orders. Sounds get further. The danger stays in close as an enemy sub pursues our flight. Let's send a spread of fish their way. Sir, we barely have enough juice to get back to shore. We can't fire in this condition. The captain scrambles up a ladder and mans the periscope. Then we'll die here, son, because those chaps aren't looking to wait until this fight's fair. A man lives when he draws his gun first. I don't hear what he says next. I don't hear the Japanese die when a torpedo from our rear tubes blows their sub apart. I just see the men's faces light up, and then it all goes dark. We think good thoughts at first. It takes 5 hours on the bottom of this sea to lose our honest thought that someone will soon save us. It takes several minutes more before it's clear that air is running out. It takes a day until the first man dies. His lungs are weak, and the supply of air is worse every minute. They fill the torpedo holds with the bodies. It cuts the smell down and helps morale not to see the dead. It's barely 2 days until I'm alone. I don't know why I don't die. After a year, I pray for it. I scream until I fall down weak, but never dead. I don't know how long it is. After 30 years, I stopped counting. That was a long time ago. There is no food here. There is no air, and I still live. I talk both sides of every conversation. Just get out there. Swim. You've lived longer than any man. You don't breathe. You don't eat. You won't drown. I keep talking inside my head. I don't drown, and part of me is disappointed. I don't know how long it takes to get up to the surface. It feels like days. Above my head, the light of the future hits the water. I try to imagine what the world will be like. I try to imagine the world after the war. The sky is just how I remembered. What you see here as this guy who has survived this long in the sub comes up is surface ships on top of the water, surface ships trading laser fire with enemy airships and rocket planes. War is still raging right above the spot where his sub went down and stayed there for so long. The end.
Killjoy. The aircraft on page 1, panel 1 are clearly German, but on page 3, panel 3, the skipper IDs the enemy as Japanese. Pick a bad guy, fellas. And as an aside, I think the US sub, I'll use page 1, panel 3 for the example, looks like a U-boat. Page 3, panel 4, the skipper is peering through the periscope looking for the bad guy. Periscopes are for use near the surface. They are useless at depth. Oh, and to tank the whole story, page 4, panel 3, when the sub sinks to the bottom when they run out of fuel, completely wrong. Unless you're taking on water, you wouldn't sink like that as long as you maintain buoyancy. Blow the main ballast tanks and you should be able to just float to the surface. My civilian job centers around submarines, by the way. Yeah, you're going to pop up in the middle of a battle and be a sitting duck, but at least the crew will have a chance at survival. Or just sit on the bottom until the battle's over, then blow your tanks. Spoiler, more to come.
Oh man. Whew. Again, I don't usually read the Killjoys until we're recording, and I hear Rich read them out live, people, and whew, man, I'm glad I didn't know all that stuff. I'll say, like, comments and commendations, such as they will be. This is going to be a quick one for me, folks. On page two, panel one, smoking in a sub, was that allowed? How is that even close to a good idea? Anyway, in panel four, though, I like the graphically silent sound effect there. And I think we all know how much I love old fashioned, crazily lettered sound effects, but that really worked for me. On page three, panel four, I also liked the silent explosions as a graphic effect. But by then, I do start having intrusive thoughts about how sound supposedly carries better through water than it does through air. But there's all this talk about, I don't even hear the sounds. I mean, it's a subwall's thick, I get it, but it started it started grappling with me right there. Like, shouldn't these sound effects be even bigger underwater? you know? But page four does a good job of getting across the grim progression of the situation playing out in the fallen submarine. But the reveal of our protagonist's apparently immortal nature is so underwhelming as to almost go unnoticed, even if you read the narration boxes carefully. Page seven makes a visually cool splash. Get it? He's and the eternal war raging on does get the theme of the series across. I suppose you could wonder if the display he sees up above and his immortality were all just part of one massively oxygen deprived hallucination, but eh, this one doesn't really gel enough for me to justify its existence. It needed a little more time in the oven, I think.
Killjoys aside, overall, I thought the art by Nick Klein filled the bill admirably. Page one, the opening battle scene, then the same scene from across the harbor, then the sub, then inside the sub. Good storytelling. Page three, panel one, the captain ordering the terrified seaman to take the boat down captures the drama of the moment. Two, lights on, lights out panels on page four are well done as well. Page five, panel five, the chief is an old man now. Long white hair, craggy skin. Boom. Page six, panel four, the swim for the surface, reaching for life, reaching for freedom. And this last splash page of Future War that has the title and creative staff on it. Nothing has changed. As far as the chief knows, it could be the same war. The writing, while it has its strengths, especially in the why won't I die part of the story, is another thing entirely. And here again is where my CNC and Killjoys blend borders. Page one, panel four. The sonar man calls, direct hit. On what? Are you firing? I thought those were all our ships. And a couple panels from now, you don't have the juice to fire. This sequence irked me enough I didn't include it in the script. Page two, panel four. The first one nearly cracks the ship in half, but it holds. The second flies overhead. First one of what? If I'm on the other sub and have the element of surprise, I'm putting a torpedo into you. I'm not firing my deck guns, which is apparently what the enemy skipper did. By the way, I don't see any deck guns on that sub on page three. And I dare say a shell hit would penetrate the hull anyway and prevent you from diving. The old man stops counting the years when he passes 30, so you need be reminded that the battery is dead. There are no lights. He's been in pitch black the entire time. It's obvious it's been longer than 30 years when he gets to the surface. Might be closer to a century. The more time I spent writing my CNC, the more issues I found, and at the end of the day, I must toss this story into the dustbin.
Yep. First draft didn't work. Sorry. Next story. Let's see how we do with the follow up to that one. It's called Private Parker Sees Thunder Lizards. It is, again, 7 pages long. Script is by another. These are two names I'm familiar with, but not familiar with how to say the first one. Jan Stranad. Y'all, you're all comic book fans. You've heard of this person, but it's Strnad, and I'm just assuming you say every letter in that name. Art is by Gabriel Hardman. Synopsis for this one goes like this. We were behind enemy lines in and around the Dutch town of Vagel. The Nazis owned it until a few hours ago, and now they wanted it back. We were getting hammered by artillery, and Dutch intelligence told us there was a convoy of German panzers heading down Hill's Highway, due to arrive at midnight, about 2 hours before we could get reinforced from Udin. I'm saying these town names wrong. Eh, we'll figure it out. We were surrounded, outnumbered, and outgunned. It was a hell of a night. Under sniper and shell fire in a pounding rain, Hank dives behind a broken brick wall where the company commander is also taking shelter. Parker's hurt bad, Captain. He took a hit. He's blinded and he's got a belly full of shrapnel. Where is he? That old barn outside of town up in the haymow. I can't move him, sir. He'd never make it. Requesting permission, stay with him if you want. The Germans will be on that barn like a hawk on a mouse, but it's your funeral. Hank returns to the blindfolded Private Woody Parker in the barn. What'd he say? Parker asks. Are they bugging out? Nowhere to bug out to, pal. Reinforcements are on their way. We'll have a medic up here before you know it. Yeah, right. You gotta leave me, Hank. Curl up in a nice, comfy foxhole until the Jerry's pass through. We're sitting ducks up here. Yeah, I'll leave you, just like you left me at Doubler's Pond that time. We were fishing as usual, and you were yammering on about dinosaurs, also as usual. Pretty soon, you went quiet, and I knew you'd gone off again into that special world of yours, the world of thunder lizards. The memory came flooding back of two schoolhouse bullies sneaking up behind them. Well, well, look who's here. Henry the Weasel. Bet you thought you were pretty smart telling Principal Klein who wrote that stuff on the wall. You're going to pay for that, squirt. One of them yanked Hank to his feet as the other pushed Woody to the ground. Get lost, Woodrow. We got no gripe with you. But Woody clenched his fists and got to his feet. You're going to have one once I beat the tar out of you. Come on, then, the bully sneered. Hank laid his buddy's head in his lap. You stayed with me, and we both got our butts kicked. You didn't leave me then, and I'll be cussed if I'm going to leave you now. I got even, Woody gasped. Too angry to sleep that night, so I counted sheep, only it wasn't sheep. I counted dinos, killed those guys 100 times in my head. Woody chuckled at the thought of a T-Rex devouring the bullies before the chuckles turned into gagging coughs. Woody, take it easy, Hank exclaims. Geez, pal, you're burning up. You hear that? That rumbling? It's panzers. It was a column of them coming into town. The lead tank puts a shell into their barn, and Hank covers Woody with his body to protect him from the cascading dust. It's the Jerry's, Hank. You gotta bug out. No, you're wrong, Woody. It isn't the Germans. It's dinosaurs, Woody. There's a big old T-Rex right outside the barn. He's stomping his feet and roaring loud enough to shake the rafters. He's right outside, so we got to be real still and quiet. We got to stay here where it's safe. He's going crazy out there. Their bullets only make him madder. He's laying into them like a Tyrannosaurus. They're all out there, Woody. Allosaurus and Triceratops and those flying lizard things. The Jerrys don't stand a chance. It's a slaughter, Woody. A regular slaughter. As Hank spins the yarn, something incredible happens. When Woody imagines the scenes taking place outside that Hank describes, the dinosaurs actually appear. The carnivores scoop German soldiers into their toothy maws. Pterodactyls carry others off. Charging Triceratops knock German vehicles over. Woody struggles upright and pulls his blindfold down. Gotta see this! Why can't I see? Sit back, Woody, Hank exclaims. But at that moment, the main gun from a panzer fires and the shell detonates in the haymow. Hank is killed instantly, dying pinned under the rubble. Woody cries, I see him, Hank. I see him. Dawn the next day. The rain has stopped. Two GIs walk through the ruined town. What a slaughter, one mutters. The battalion never had a chance. You gotta hand it to them, though, the other adds. They softened the Jerrys up for us. Hank is found first. Wonder what these guys were doing up here. They had to know the Panzers would target them first thing. Should have holed up until we got here. Woody is found next, his lifeless eyes open and a content smile on his face. You ever see a look like that on a dead grunt's face before? Never. The Jerrys must have caught him in the middle of some sweet dream. Lucky stiff. He died a happy man. Neither GI sees a faint image of the T Rex hovering in the sky outside. The end.
Killjoy. History minute. I thought I had a killjoy when the term grunt was used here because I don't recall ever having seen it used in World War II. I thought it came to the fore in Vietnam. Grunt might be an acronym. This origin story takes us back to World War II when infantry units sustained extremely high casualty rates, forcing troops from rear echelon units forward. They were quickly trained, often in theater, to be foot soldiers. These troops were categorized as General Replacement Unit Not Trained, or grunt. Did not know that. Despite having a Dutch-sounding last name, Jan Strnad, again, however you say that, is an American writer. I checked because I had to see if the towns of Uden and Vegel really exist, and they do, in the Netherlands. Uden is northeast of Vegel, on a straight line between Eindhoven and Nijmegen. I doubt reinforcements for Vegel would have come from Uden, which is even deeper behind enemy lines, unless the 82nd had fought their way south to link up, which I doubt. Maybe Strnad should have simply swapped the names. If Eindhoven and Nijmegen sound familiar, so should Arnhem and Operation Market Garden. From September 17th to 25th, 1944, Market Garden was a bold effort by British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery to end the war in 1944 with an airborne assault to seize vital bridges in the Netherlands to facilitate a strike across the Rhine River into northern Germany. Market was two American airborne divisions, the 82nd, Nijmegen, and 101st, Eindhoven, and the 1st British Airborne Division with the 1st Polish Independent Parachute Brigade, Arnhem, dropping on their objectives, while Garden was a ground assault by the British 30th Corps to link up with all the airborne forces. But the route, soon to be named Hell's Highway, as in the story, was narrow and furiously defended by the Germans. Bad weather made aerial resupply difficult. Still, the 82nd and 101st were relieved by ground forces. The British weren't so lucky. They had the misfortune to be dropped with German SS armored divisions nearby. So with no heavy guns or armor of their own, the British were up against it, and Allied ground forces were unable to reach the British paratroopers before they were forced to surrender due to high casualties and low ammo. Market Garden failed. The war would not end in 1944. Watch the 1977 classic A Bridge Too Far for a star-studded retelling of the battle, or read Cornelius Ryan's classic book that the film is based on. C&C, I'm assuming our protagonists were part of one U.S. airborne division or another because the relief force was British. Probably the 101st, based on locale, who would have joined the British relief fighting towards Nijmegen. 2 episodes in a row with a War That Time Forgot story? Max must be living right. This isn't a bad story, but I got a bit flummoxed with the dinosaur sequence. Is Woody creating the dinosaurs with his mind that attacked the Germans to match the battle that Hank describes to him? Hank is just telling Woody a story to keep his wounded bud calm as the Germans close in, with a completely unexpected side effect. Hank isn't looking outside. He's concentrating on Woody. He doesn't actually see what's happening as the dinos run roughshod on the German column. Woody is overweight with a blonde crew cut, probably your stereotypical dinosaur nerd. The story is okay, but the art left a bit to be desired. Not a lot of call-outs, but I'll acknowledge page 3, panel 6 of the T-Rex leaning in to dine on the schoolyard toughs. The wounded Woody shadows on page 4, panel 1. The last panel of page 5 of T-Rex playing with his food as the SS futilely blaze away. At page 6, panel 4, of the 2 Americans getting blown to hell by the enemy cannon round. Had to think about this one a while. But in the end, the best thing about it was my Bridge Too Far history minute passed.
Oh man. Well, hey, I gotta say again, Killjoy, and this was a new discovery for Rich too. But I'm finding out right now that Grunt was ever an acronym. That is Awesome. I'm learning things today, people. That doesn't happen often. Rich is here to tell you. So, my CNC, I'll say on the other side of the Cretaceous chasm, there's me. Right away, I was psyched to see Gabriel Hardman's artwork. I've always liked his stuff, and I don't see it as often as I feel like I should. Just look at the rain effects in the opening panel. They're minimalist, but 100% effective and super atmospheric. Get it? They're just really good. Like you don't have to kill yourself to make a really cool effect like that. And it just pulls it off perfectly. Panel 4 of that same page gives us a great little silhouette of an unnamed at that point, a pet peeve of mine, grunt going up a ladder. And I took some dark amusement in the use of the "It's Your Funeral" line being used on someone who is basically going to watch someone else die. It just hit me in the moment reading it, like, oh, that's kind of layered right there. It's a whole lot of funerals going around. On page 2, I really liked the effect of the grim loft scenes on the top of the page being contrasted by the brightly lit pastoral flashback panels below. Kind of sets up the theme of the story right there. Our anonymous angel of mercy gets a name in panel 2, Hank, so I'll let it slide a little. And in the first of the flashback panels, Parker reminds me of myself as a kid. Maybe not physically, I was a skinny little runt with a big round head, but going on and on about dinosaurs to the point where even other little kids couldn't stand it. That right there, that echoed. That's where I was like, oh yeah, you're just like me. So panels 1 to 3 on the next page make use of some really effective changes in perspective throughout Hank and Parker's tussle with the bullies. And that dino, as Rich mentioned, taking its imaginary vengeance in panel 6 is just awesome. Going on to page 5, we're shown some excellently creative design work with panels 1 to 2. Floating over the bottomless third panel before using another floating panel to set up the big payoff of the final borderless panel with the kick-ass close-up of the Rex attack. Then we have the splash panel that kicks off page 6, featuring a smorgasbord of saurian specters snacking on SS soldiers. I don't care if they're not SS, shut up. I was going for alliteration there. Are followed a few beats later by the nicely rendered whoop of our boys being blasted simultaneously back into and back out of reality. On the final page, I really like the touch of the silhouetted hand in the foreground of panel 3. And that again, as Rich mentioned, that final panel featuring the spectral T-Rex and Parker's blindly staring face in the inset panel once again brings the theme of the story to the front. And speaking of the story, I liked it. It was about two friends, one of whom escaped harsh realities by escaping into a vivid fantasy world. And what harsher reality is there than the weird war? In my opinion, this was a fun and clever way to pay homage to the soldiers fighting dinosaur stories of the past. And to Rich's confusion, I never once assumed that the dinosaurs were actually really appearing. I just assumed we were seeing a visual representation of the story Hank was telling to Woody, while outside something completely different was happening, other than what we were being shown in the artwork. It was like your unreliable narrator kind of thing. So I never thought real dinosaurs appeared and attacked the Germans. I just thought like that was Hank trying to visualize something to tell Woody. So I didn't run into any of that. I was just like, oh yeah, he's just telling Woody a story. And meanwhile, God knows what's happening outside, but what's going to happen is you're going to get blasted to kingdom come, which ended up happening. So I enjoyed this one a little bit more in that I sort of glazed over the disconnect with the two different kinds of reality there. So, this being a redeployment issue and not even a multi issue one, there's no APO Weird Wars Hills letters page to talk about. So, instead, we will move on to our spotlighted ads for this issue. And as you could probably guess, this is a comic book from 2010. So, it's kind of an advertisement wasteland, people. Out of the wasteland, I did have to choose something. So I chose 3 full page ads for something called the event. So you got one page, and there's your Hollywood handsome leading man type guy staring out at you, full close up on his face, and it says a desperate act will start it. Second one is another actor staring out at you, and it says the president can't stop it. And the third one is an actress staring out at you intensely, and it says an abduction won't prevent it. On all 3 pages, the title of the show, The Event. What will you believe? And red letters LIE in the middle of believe are highlighted and colored in red differently. So it's believe and lie. Get it? Very clever. New series starting September 20th, Mondays, 9 o'clock on NBC. More colorful with the little peacock logo. There you go. That's my spotlighted ad. I'll add a 4th missing page to those 3 pages that shows a blank face with no discernible features, featuring with no discernible features, with text that reads, "No one will remember it." So I had to look this up on Wikipedia because, I had no clue that this thing ever happened. The event, from Wikipedia, it says the event is an American television series containing elements of science fiction, action adventure, and political allegory. It was created by Nick Waters and aired on NBC from September 20th, 2010 to May 23rd, 2011. The plot centers on a group of extraterrestrials, some of whom have been detained by the United States government for 66 years since their ship crashed in Alaska, while others have secretly assimilated among the general populace. The series was picked up for a full first season of 22 episodes on October 18th, 2010, and on May 13th, 2011, NBC canceled the series after 1 season. Big surprise. So my question to you, dear listeners, is, does anyone remember the event?
This may not be a Vertigo book anymore, but the crap ad selection hasn't changed for a comic of this era. Almost by default, I have to go with the ad for the movie Red. Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich. I can never say his last name. Malkovich, Mary Louise Parker, and Helen Mirren. Still armed, still dangerous, still got it. October 15th. Red is vertical on the right side of the page. On the left side, next to each letter, are photos of Willis and Parker, then armed Mirren and Freeman, and lastly, Malkovich howling and blazing away. Both of the Red movies were absolute blasts, and I'll always give them a watch when I stumble on them while channel surfing. In light of my own recent loss, I obviously have nothing but sympathy and well wishes for Bruce Willis, suffering from frontotemporal dementia. Monty Python's Terry Jones also passed from complications stemming from it. Yeah, even with a better ad selection, I was still probably going to pick this one.
Yeah, before we move on, I'll just say I've never seen either of these movies. I really want to. It's just like, Gail hasn't taken the bait anytime I've said, "Hey, you want to watch a movie?" So I got to find my own time to watch these, and I'm a squirrel, so I haven't gotten around to it yet. And also, man, they made a whole movie called Being John Malkovich. It's Malkovich.
Yeah, well, how long did it take me to figure out how to say Michelini's name? So
Well, yeah,
do not mock.
I was mispronouncing his name way worse than that. Because I was even misreading it for decades. I just called him David Michelin in my head, and it didn't even spelled that way. So okay, fine. You could take us into our got any last words section.
This is the end. Not a bad book, but not a great one either. Kind of an unsatisfying end to the redeployment books. Bottom half of the set of 6. I'd still buy it if another one was published. Hint to whoever is out there that might be listening to this that has pull on such things. Kind of sad these are done, but it opens the door to other books I have my eyes on. Armistice Day is the slam dunk winner, as predicted. By accidental design, we recorded this episode on Memorial Day weekend, which is Very fitting.
Hey, I'll say there's a chance that Weird War Tales might come back in a big way that might make us happy. I'll put that out there because what did I just finish watching a little while ago? An animated series called The Creature Commandos. All right. So the mojo is out there. James Gunn is obviously a fan of the deep cuts of the DC universe. So, like I said, Gunn, give us at least an animated short of Armistice Night, of that story that opened this issue. Start there. But we have a small sliver of a chance out here, people. So for my last voids, I'll say, as the man who was born with the name Marvin Lee Aday once said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I loved one story, was about another, and really liked the last one. So, yeah, in my opinion, not bad at all, really. Still, there's no competing with that opener by Cook and Stewart. I mean, come on. It wouldn't almost matter. What was it? You'd have to have a reprint of the pool or something to even, go toe to toe with it. So there you go, folks. That's for now our final redeployment, unless we decide to cover the animated Creature Commandos series. Or there was also a Creature Commandos miniseries in print form that Rich gave to me that I read that I also kind of dug. That's pretty recent too. So we got options, folks, if we want to splinter off later on. But I'll let Rich, as he's doing right now, rub his chin in sinister contemplation about that. And I'll get us to the end of the show, the little section at the end we call the scuttlebutt, where I remind you, hey, we've got a kick-ass Facebook page run by our good buddy Rich. It's the Weird Warriors Podcast Facebook page. Go over there, have yourself a great time. And while you're going over there, having a great time, you can go to redbubble.com as well. Search the Weird Warriors Podcast and get our awesome logo that was drawn and designed by Bill Walko. That's Walko. And get that freaking great logo put on any piece of merchandise you can find at redbubble.com. Get that merch shipped to you. Take a picture of it. Send it to the Weird Warriors Podcast Facebook page on Facebook Messenger, and you'll get a Sam Star. Ask around. People will tell you what that is. We really shouldn't have any left, though. So, yeah, but come on, people. All right. Get with it. Do that. The logo is awesome. Never mind us. Get the freaking logo. It's super cool. Get it on some merch. Get a Sam Star. Look at all the stuff we're trying to give you here, okay? So that's it for me. That's my part of the scuttlebutt. I'll stop yelling at you for a moment and let Rich take you to a teaser for our next episode.
Weird War Tales number 69. 69. Mutants, overconfident conquistadors, spoilers, and the glorious arrival in these pages of one Fred Hembeck. See y'all next time.
First of all, nice. Second of all, I freaking love Fred Hembeck, one of my favorite cartoonists ever. It's him and Sergio Aragones, man, like are my favorite cartoony artists that are still alive. And I have met both of them. Very psyched for some Fred Hembeck content on the podcast coming up. So that's it, folks. Ending on that very positive note. Max gets all excited. Got some Hembeck coming up and all that. That's it. The show is over. I'm still talking, but the show is over. And what's that show? It's the Weird Warriors Podcast. Who are we? We're the Weird Warriors. We're the Battling Bros. This show is, as I mentioned, the Weird Warriors Podcast, and that is a podcast where we promise to make war no more.